Today is day 3, I think, of the impeachment inquiry. My goodness, today was the longest day, and I watched every single hour. I either watched or listened to it, but I didn't miss a moment. That's how important I think this time is. So it was so long today because there were really 4 witnesses, 2 testifying at the same time. And if you're not able to watch the inquiry, the reason it takes so long is because this is in the Intelligence Committee. And so the chair, Adam Schiff, and an attorney get to question the people for 45 minutes. And then the ranking member, which is the people in the minority, the Republicans, David Nunes, and his attorney get to question the witnesses for 45 minutes. And then each member of the committee gets to question for 5 minutes. So it goes on and on and on. But I'm not going to go on and on and on. So let's just go through a quick recap of what happened today. This morning was very gripping to me, and I'm looking down at my notes. There were 2 people who testified. Jennifer Williams, who is a career person in the State Department. She's now working in Mike Pence's office, and she's a Republican. She worked on Bush, Cheney, everything. She's a Republican loyalist. And so we know her position, but when she was on the phone call July 25th, and she said she felt it was inappropriate and you can't do that kind of stuff. What she was referring to was you cannot ask a foreign president for help with an American citizen. Just think about that. If he didn't like something that you and I were doing, he could do the same thing to us. So she was the first person. And then the other person, and let me get this right, y'all, because he did something this afternoon. Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vidman. And earlier today, David Nunes kept calling him Mr. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but if I was writing it in a book, it would be like this: with all due respect, address me as Lieutenant Colonel, please. And so that was kind of wonderful, especially to Nunes. So, and he wore his uniform, and some of the Republicans took issue with that. But then remember, they had an issue with President Obama wearing a tan suit, so they just had issues. Wait a minute, I'm trying to be fair. No, that's true. They just have issues. So anyway, the most important thing about these 2 people is that they were both on the phone call. That's what you need to know. Both of them said they didn't want to be here. The lieutenant colonel said that the attacks against him have been crazy. Think about this. His family is being moved. He will be given a new job, and he now has protection. All because he did the right thing. He heard that quid pro quo, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, on the phone call, and he knew it wasn't right. But who he is, his family came over here from the Soviet Union. That's what it was at that time. And that was 40 years ago. But he and his twin brother, and I believe they have another brother, have served in the military for the last 20 years. But the Republicans have gone after him. You do not know whether or not he's a Republican or a Democrat. I don't think that matters. What he was just saying is that he went straight to an attorney to just say, I don't know if this is right or not. The Republicans did try to find out if he had talked to the whistleblower and if he knew who the whistleblower was. I think he does know. I think some of his information to the whistleblower may have come from him. But it doesn't matter because everything they said was true. Something I want to talk about to make sure that happened today, to make sure that we don't get confused, is the Republicans are trying to make it sound like the Democrats have gone from quid pro quo to extortion to bribery. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I heard that the Democrats did some focus groups to see which one would work best, and I hope they did, because that's a smart thing to do. They mean the same thing. The definition of quid pro quo, it's a Latin term that means this for that. That's all it means. The definition of extortion is encouraging or obtaining something through force. So that's what extortion is. You better give me this, and you're using whatever force or power you have. And then bribery is persuading someone to do something through some type of inducement. It's the same thing. Trump, I was getting ready to call him something else. Trump was trying to get dirt on Joe Biden, and the inducement, the force, was the military aid. So I don't care what we call it. The Democrats were right to go out and find the best term that people would understand, and that's bribery. So both of the people this morning testified that the phone call was wrong. They didn't know too much about the aid being held up. Jennifer Williams said that she's not receiving any repercussions, any bad things happening. Lieutenant Colonel Vindman is. And so really we need to pray for him and his family. But he's not worried. And he actually got an applause today spontaneously because he said, here in America, here right matters. What is right does matter. So I loved him. So that's a summary of this morning. All those hours, and I could have just done it for them in 5 minutes. That's what happened this morning. They testified that the phone call was wrong, period. The challenge is that it's now beyond the phone call. It's what went on before the phone call and what happened beyond the phone call. And we're going to find a lot of that out tomorrow. The second half were 2 witnesses that the Republicans requested. And that was Kurt Volker and Tim Morrison. Now, Kurt Volker was the very first person who testified in the private depositions. He was the one where all the text messages that you've ever seen, they came from him. He was actually volunteering for the country. He wasn't paid, which was interesting to me. He worked for the Department of State, but he was not paid. So when he was called for a deposition, and even through this, he didn't work for the government at all. Wasn't getting any salary, was just coming because duty called. And so he had to amend his statement that he had given before, because he said before that he didn't see any kind of quid pro quo. What he says now is that in retrospect, he should have recognized that the money was being held up, because he knew the money was being held up, but he didn't know why. He said he should have recognized that the holdup was tied to Biden. And he says that if anybody had come to him and told him that they had to give a statement regarding Joe Biden, he wouldn't have done it. The thing that was so interesting about Volker was that even though he was the Republicans' witness, he gave a resounding approval of Joe Biden. He said he would have never done anything wrong. I've known him for years. This is BS. We need to just forget it. So it was interesting testimony. Tim Morrison was the most interesting character to me. I watched him like I was studying a character for one of my books. His face never changed. He did not smile. It was just, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. He was looking through people like he thought everybody on there, Democrats and Republicans, he was looking like he thought all of them were just so far below him. But what he said was that he didn't see anything wrong with the phone call. He did not see anything wrong with what Trump said. But he did, after the phone call, he did go to the attorneys. So that's kind of weird because Congresswoman Demings, who happens to be my soror from Florida, said, so if you didn't see anything wrong, why'd you go to the attorneys? He said he went to the attorneys because of the political climate and he thought it was a bad political call. Whatever. So that's the summary. This morning you had two people who were on a call. The Republicans could no longer say it's second hand, third hand, fourth hand. Now I don't know what they're saying. They really are attacking Vindman, the man who went to the attorneys and said, this is wrong, we've got to do something. They are attacking him, and it's just so sad because those people who are sitting on the dais there looking down at the witnesses, they have not served. Not most of them have not served. And it's just so sad what they do when it's on the other side. I don't want anybody to ever do that. And then this afternoon was for the Republicans, and he said, both of those gentlemen said, nothing wrong, didn't see a quid pro quo, whatever. But it's like being in a room with 20 people. 20 people will have different stories, and the challenge is if 8 of the stories are close and say you're a criminal, if it looks like a criminal, smells like a criminal, tweets like a criminal, it's probably a criminal. But I'm not talking about the criminal, I'm talking about Trump. So that was the summary of today. Tomorrow is going to be lit. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But that's the summary for today. If you have any questions, drop them in the in the comment section, and I will try to get back to you on every single question you have. Okay? And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to us right here at Politics, Prose, and Pop Culture. Bye.